Hey everyone, Jeff Freeman here with the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream. And I tell you what, do you want to know where the money pit is? I know Rick and Marty and the rest of the team, they want to know where the money pit is. Do you want to know exactly where the money pit is? Then you need to watch tonight's show because our guest that we have on here tonight, you've seen him before, Ghost of Bacon himself, Jake Roberts, and he's going to join us, John Edwards and I, and we are going to be looking into all of his ciphers and see what he comes up with. Are you ready for that? Let's get started right now.
This is Robert Clotworthy, the narrator of The Curse of Oak Island, and I have a question for you. Could it be that you are listening to The Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream?
This is a top pocket find, mate, for sure.
All right, here we go. Hey, all right, John Edwards and I, we are hosting our good friend Jake Roberts. Jake, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing relatively well, my friend. It's great to be here. I'm really glad you invited me on tonight to share this information.
Oh, I tell you what, I could when you hit me with that, and folks, it was kind of a surprise to me when I did the little news update, the little thing we did that one day at noon, and he was telling me that. I mean, it was a big surprise to me too, and I'm like, okay, we have to do a show.
Yeah, and thanks for inviting me on. And I love doing your update, and that was a lot of fun. And of course, anytime the two of us or the three of us, any of the two of us get together, I mean, we always have a great time, and it's always a great visit. You're good friends, and I'm just really excited to share my information because, I'm sure everyone's aware who's tuning in live this evening, and everyone who watches later on the recording. I really think I found the original location of the money pit.
Wow.
I do.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
It blows me away. It really does. And that's why I was like, okay, you've taken us over the course of time that I've known you. You have taken us on an educational ride through the different ciphers, simple cipher, reverse cipher.
Yeah.
There's so many different ones. And you have impressed me with your knowledge of being able to read these, and then John jumping in as well with all this stuff, and you guys talking double towels, triple towels, and this and that and the other. But you pulled me right into it. You really have. It's been an education. So, and I trust you know what you're seeing when you read these as well as John, and that's why when you said that, I'm like, okay, we have to dig into this. We have to.
Yeah, thanks for your trust. And the thing is what I'm going to be sharing tonight, John, I shared just about well, nearly everything with you.
Mm-hmm.
I hold some little bits back just because I want to see your face when I show it to you. But this one tonight, I've been sitting on this for a while, gang.
Wow.
And I don't mind saying I'm a little bit excited. And like I said, and you're right, Jeff, when I get into the whole, cipher thing sometimes, and John, you're so good at reining me in when I get a little too heady, and start rattling things off that I just see without any real explanation. But tonight, I think that we're going to be able to, hey, Jim, I think we're going to be able to take this step by step because this treasure map, because that's what it is, I think is very easy to understand. And I think that tonight I'm going to be able to just kind of lay it out for folks that there's nothing complicated here. There's just a handful of very basic cipher signatures that I think, since we share so many of the viewers, and I'm going to go over the basics here at the very beginning, of course, to get people prepared for it. But I think that we have so many repeat live viewers that most of the people watching live this evening are really going to be able to grasp it very easily. So
Great. That's awesome. I wanted to give a shout out to also to some of them. Some of the, and it's becoming a pattern now. Some of the first people to show up, as I've said before, when I first fire up the server and start getting things ready, it goes out to YouTube and says upcoming, and people start logging in. And so, who gets to be the first ones? Well, tonight it was Paula and Amy jumped in, and they're having fun up in Mahone Bay right now. I guess they went out to see Carmen Legg today.
Nice.
So we'll get to find out a little bit about that, as I'm sure as the night goes on. We'll see. I saw a few things popping up already.
I'll be interested in those selfies.
What's that?
I'll be interested in those selfies.
Yeah. Let's see.
Some of us have been getting a barrage here. This is great. I've really enjoyed their travels.
Oh yeah, and the and what's the bear's name? Ted.
Ted.
Okay, guys.
Ted, like from the movie Ted.
Ted.
Yeah. Houston, Texas. Dave, how you doing tonight? Let's see. Who else we got? Tom is out there. Thank you, Tom, for coming by. Thank all of you guys for coming by. Hutch is here. Cat Fulton's here. Sandollar Ray. Hey, Sandollar, how you doing? Glad you're here tonight. Like you said before, we have a lot of people who are kind of like the regulars, and they kind of follow, watch the different shows that you put on and I put on. And I mean, there's some good stuff out there. There's a lot of great groups that are happening, and it's always good for people to get be part and check out what's happening in these other groups, because you're going to get information that you're not going to get here sometimes, and vice versa. And it's just a good thing to really spread it out there and really gather your information. Mary's here tonight. Hi, Mary. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's a lot of chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karen. Let's see. Karen's here. Christy is here. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Over on the Facebook side, we got quite a few. Wanda. Hi, Wanda. Vicky. Karen Howard. Bonnie, Elizabeth. Hi, guys. Thank you guys for coming by tonight. Really appreciate it. Marcia, Darlene.
Yeah. You know who Marcia is, right? Stuff. Marcia Winter?
Marcia Winter?
That is Gretchen Cornwall's mother.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for that. Yes. Yep.
Shout out to you, Marcia.
Hi, Marcia. The Awoken One, AO, is here also. Curtis.
Hello.
Thank you guys for coming. It's ever since that Jake and I talked about this, and as I said, he takes us through these ciphers. And when I co-hosted with you, when you asked me to come on and co-host, and I was honored to do that. And I tell you, and again, it's one of those times where I was just a kid in a classroom sitting there or learning from the teacher. And you showed me, we were looking at the maps, and the Champlain map, that one was. And I was fascinated by it, and I got a feeling we're looking at some maps again tonight, right? Treasure maps, as you called it.
That we are. I mean, the Champlain map is nothing less than a treasure map, and while I've unlocked a couple of the secrets of how it leads directly to Oak Island, it holds more, and I've started to unlock those as well. So this has been, everyone involved in this hunt, we all call it a rabbit hole. It really doesn't end. And I think that before we're done, I think that what's going to happen is we will discover multiple sites, not just on Oak Island, but all over Nova Scotia and Newfoundland by the time we're done of different sites that not only have lore associated with them like the Money Pit does, but
Yep.
also have maps that lead directly to them. So tonight I see as being kind of like a kickoff to, this is just one thing that uh, I think it's the tip of the iceberg. And I think that what I'm going to be showing to you tonight is not what I would call something that no one else has ever discovered before. I think that other people have discovered at least part of what I've discovered before. There might be a final piece that I can add.
Mhm.
But other than that, I think there's a very good reason why Oak Island, Nova Scotia, has been visited by so many prominent Freemasons over time. And John, you were one of the key people to clue me into this connection. And so I'm going to give you a shout out here during this presentation, because that was a key piece of information that made the light bulb go off. So thank you for that.
No problem.
All right. So I was just just checking out some of the chat here. But I tell you
Yeah,
what,
it's going crazy.
It's almost 12 after we got started here. Let's dive into it, man.
All right.
Let's go.
I like all the
I'm
comments.
excited. I know a lot of people are too. I'm looking to see what's going on.
I like all the comments.
Oh,
Oh,
what happened?
Jake is gone.
He disappeared that quick. Okay. All right. Hang on, folks.
Jeff, what's the frequency, Jeff?
1.6 gigahertz.
1.6 gigahertz. And there he goes. He's gone.
Gigahertz. Yes. Oh my gosh. Jay
You know,
1.6 gigahertz.
if I did, you almost want to call conspiracy. He's just about to show us what the Money Pit is, according to the Bixonian cipher and the maps. You know, Champlain's map and other maps. And Jake disappears. There he is. He's back.
Yeah. So yeah. Right when he's getting ready to tell us, he disappears, and then there he is. He's back.
There he is. He's back.
Again. Hold on. Let me get rid of the other one, because what happened was I started to.
You clicked, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to share my screen and I left the studio. I haven't even.
It's
Yes, Jim, it is. This is the worst part. This is what happens when I don't have a beer while I'm doing this. So
see, yeah. Well,
so
in your Curse of Oak Island mug.
Correct. All right, here we go, gang. I got it going now.
All right.
So let's take a look at this, people. And at some point, and like people who were watching live at one point, pre-show, I warned Jeff and John. I asked them if they could actually pull up Google Earth at a pivotal moment, just because right now I can't see anyone's faces, and I really want to see everyone's faces when they put the X on the map. So those of you at home, those of you who are theorists or enthusiasts, and you actually have the Google Earth app on your computer, this presentation is going to be a little bit interactive, in the sense that I'm going to ask you to pull that up. I'm going to send people to links on my website, and so we'll get to that here in a minute. So quick overview.
Jake, are you giving out actual coordinates tonight?
I'm putting the X on the map. I'm going to let people plug them in and see where the push pin appears on Oak Island.
Okay, I got my Google map up, so yeah.
That's amazing. Okay.
I am giving all the coordinates. I'm just putting it out there, okay?
All right.
That's awesome. Okay, let's do it. This is amazing.
Quick overview of this presentation. I'm going to give you a simplified version of the Cipher system and how it works, just to show you what it is that I do here. All of this comes from my book, The Holy Trinity Decryption. We're going to talk about how this map is related to Freemasonry, and again, another shout out to John Edwards for pointing this out to me. And so the Cipher system and all of these discoveries I made are all based on the discoveries I made within the first book and recorded there. So I'm going to talk about some of the quote unquote significant numbers. And there are only a handful of what we call primary Cipher signatures. And I'm going to talk about those and what they are. Basically for tonight, there are only 4 or 5 numbers you're going to have to remember. So it's going to be very simple. I'm going to talk about quickly how they're used here in the Cipher system. And also what to look for when you're doing decryption. There are certain signposts of the Rosie Cross and Francis Bacon that we need to pay attention to, that when you see them, it's a red flag. They're waving at you saying, hey, you need to check this out. So there's certain symbols, as you well know, John, and that they use again as signposts to try to catch our attention. Also, you're going to see some of the mistakes made on this map, and they're purposeful. They're intended to be clues, and they have each of them. Every time you see a mistake, not only is it a clue that there's something at work here, the mistake is necessary in order for the message to work. And so I'm going to talk about some of the relevant values associated with not just the Raising Cross of Francis Bacon, but also this map and how it leads to the X on the map. And this is what I do, gang. I don't come up with a theory and then try to find evidence to support it. I just follow the clues where they lead me. And I've said this before on my own podcast. I'm going to say it again. You know, for the longest time, I just said, okay, you know what? I'm done with Oak Island research. You know, I have other stuff. I have all of this information that I'm now researching with Sir Francis Bacon. The discoveries just keep on coming. John, you, William, Russell, I know that you were going to be watching this evening. Jason Mercer, you guys have all been also corroborating all of this information and making your own discoveries that are phenomenal. And so that's what we do. We just follow the clues where they lead us. And that's what that's going to do again by the end of the evening is going to just put the X on the map for you. So this is the map in question, and this is just one section of it. This map appears in the 1611 King James Bible. Now, many of you know, if you've been watching my podcast, you also know that John and I and William and Jason, that they've also been doing a lot of work with this Bible because there are a ton of cipher information. There's a ton of cipher information in it. Now, John, you're the one who told me, and I never knew this, was that Freemasons use the same exact copy of the Bible for the Freemasons Bible. The original 1611. It's exactly the same.
The words are italicized the same. The mismatch, you know, they're not mismatched fonts, but they're italicized, which
Yes.
they're showing. They're paying homage to the 1611.
1611, and for very good reasons. And so
Obviously,
suddenly, you know, we also know that high-ranking Freemasons have always shown a high level of interest in Oak Island, Nova Scotia, and the Money Pit. So it appears here, and you can see this. This is a map of Jerusalem. You see it labeled there, and encoded within this are directions that lead to Oak Island. Believe it or not. So I was looking at this when we all started looking at the 1611. I looked at it. I said, "Oh, there has to be a ton of stuff in there." After I've already decrypted a large amount of information from the 1612 Champlain navigational chart, I saw this map. I said, "Oh, there has to be so much here." I put it on my list of things to look at, and then I get a private message from William, and he says, "You're going to want to look at page such and such and look at the map of Jerusalem." And I said, "Yeah, it's on my list." He says, "No, there are mistakes on it, and I think you'll find them interesting." And so I dropped everything and I started looking at it, and sure enough, William, you were true to form as usual. So as you pointed out some specific errors, I started going through, and then I started finding a whole bunch of other signposts. And it all primarily deals here with this upper left corner of the portion. This is just 1/4 of the page of the King James Bible. And here you see it enlarged. Here we have Jerusalem. We have a legend appearing down here on the right-hand side, all the labeled areas around, and some really curious features that I'm going to be pointing out this evening. And so this is the whole page. Here you see here's Egypt, northern Africa, and here's the other page on the opposite side showing the rest of the Holy Land. Okay, so these are two pages 74 and 75, that when you fold them out, here you have this double page. And again, we're talking full folio size map of the Middle East. So to simplify these cipher systems, I want to explain what it is I do. I look for those signposts. I look for clues. I look for mistakes, and I just start following where they lead me. That's the first thing. When you see those kinds of things, you know, okay, there's a message here. This provides what I call context. That means that I understand, first of all, we know that the 1611 was edited and revised by Sir Francis Bacon. So he had it in his possession. He worked on it for over a year. So that in and of itself is context. And then when I start seeing some of these Rosicrucian clues, along with Baconian clues, I realize, okay, we have something to work with here, and I start looking for Baconian ciphers. And so what we do is we use these cipher systems, and they are used to calculate specific values, certain numbers that have certain meanings. I'm going to talk
Right.
about what they are. What we do, if there's a word that is highlighted or misspelled, obviously on purpose, what we do is we use the cipher systems. According to each cipher system, we'll take the value of each letter and add them up. And then when we get a sum, we check those values against what we call known signatures of Sir Francis Bacon and the Rosy Cross. And that indicates that we have something at work here. And so the next thing I do is Jason has a really great technique where he uses a draftsman's technique where he finds the center by drawing lines from corner to corner, finds the exact center, then he draws lines that go perpendicular and horizontal, and then starts using Baconian numbers as angles, and it's a highly effective technique. What I started doing originally was I just look at the image and I look for where do I see lines being suggested. Okay, I look for notable features and alignments, and I line them up with a line to see what I can uncover. And so that's what I did in this case as well.
Yeah, that plane map was very much like that. You were taking certain coordinates and using those lines to, and like John is always saying, repeatable. If you got so many lines leading to one point, that's
there it is.
Something.
It is.
Yeah.
It means
Sorry,
something.
go ahead.
No, it's great. Please keep jumping in. So then what we do a lot of times, we'll just measure those angles and see if those angles also are known cipher signatures. So the other thing I do is I identify pictorial messages. Now, pictorial ciphers involve the images associated with nearby words or letters. And if you look at them all in juxtaposition and read them together, sometimes there will be a message there. And we have several on this map as well. So what these do is they provide more context. And so as I start following the lines and seeing where they point, where they lead, and then basically you're going to see how this sort of unfolds tonight. So to continue to simplify the cipher system, I'm going to suggest people, you can go to my website, theghostsofbacon.com/resources, and you can actually pull up these images I'm going to be showing you this evening yourselves, but I'll be pulling them up here momentarily just for demonstration purposes. But the cipher systems, they substitute numbers for letters, and we're talking about the Elizabethan alphabet here. Okay, so there are only 24 letters in the Elizabethan alphabet. And so what Bacon did was in various, arrangements, he substituted numbers 1 through 24, and sometimes 1 through 35, for different letters of the alphabet. And with these different arrangements, they interact with each other in a very real way. It's really pretty amazing. And so because they only have 24 letters, the Elizabethan alphabet substituted the letter I for J, and they used V whenever they needed a U. So there are 5 different arrangements of numbers associated with the alphabet here. And very quickly, there's simple, reverse, K, Elizabethan short, and 4-fold ciphers. So when I refer to simple, I'm referring to 1. When I refer to reverse, and so on. So simple, reverse, K, short, 4-fold are the 5 cipher systems we're going to be talking about tonight. And actually, tonight we're really only going to be talking about the first 4. 4-fold doesn't really enter into the conversation this evening. And so all it involves is adding the values of letters in each one of these different arrangements, and they all produce, different values that will basically point to Bacon in some way, and we call these signatures. Hopefully that makes sense. So, and by the way, guys, if there are any, I can't see the screen, so or the chat. If you have any questions or people are popping on with something, just interrupt me.
Yep, we'll bring it up and tell you. Yeah, I forgot you can't see them. Yeah.
And so, this is what the page looks like. And here you see the links to simple, reverse, and K, and 4-fold and Elizabethan are right there. So this is simple, reverse, and K. And so when we look at this arrangement, simple cipher is very easy. That's hence the name. We substitute 1 for A, 2 for B, and so on, all the way to Z for 24. So each letter is numbered 1 through 24 going forward in the alphabet. Reverse cipher obviously is the opposite. We start at A with 24. We work our way down to 1 for Z. So it's 24 through 1, A through Z. K cipher.
Check. It's literally the reverse of the first cipher, the short cipher.
It's not just a clever name. It's not just a clever name, right?
Yeah.
It's just literally the reverse.
Yeah. So in K cipher is neat. It starts with the letter K as a value of 10, just like it would in simple cipher. And it stays the same as simple cipher all the way to Z for 24. But then we have two nulls of ampersand and et in between Z and A, and it starts all over again. A is 27, and it goes all the way up to I, having a value of 35. Okay.
So why would they select it as nulls? The 25, 26?
A lot of
In
people,
your opinion.
in my opinion, there are a lot of opinions about that. But in my opinion, it's because he wanted a couple of specific features to happen with K cipher. It has to do with the value of the last name Bacon in K cipher being 111. Okay, I think that's why he did it. And also, the letter G is 33, and the G is very, very significant to the Rosicrucians.
Yeah, okay. That makes perfect sense.
Yep. So going back, we'll move to the next slide. Fourfold cipher looks something like this. And so I know it looks a little crazy, gang, but here you have A through Z, and it's just like simple cipher, 1 through 24. But then we have AA, which all of a sudden has a value of 25, and ZZ has a value of 48, and so on, all the way through quadruple A, which has a value of 73, all the way up to ZZZZ for 96. Now, the way this is used is if you have a name that has repeating letters in it, suddenly you can calculate the name's value in fourfold cipher. Or if there's a phrase or a title of a book that has repeating letters in it, suddenly fourfold produces an entirely different total than, say, simple reverse and K cipher. So that's how that's used. Whenever you see repeating letters, this is the one that you could use to make some discoveries.
So Jake, if we go back to fourfold for a minute, it's really simple cipher with the interval of 24 being used, correct? So it's
correct.
1 2 for 24, and then the AA starts at 25, and then if you add another 24, you get 48, which would be the Z, and then the AAA is 40. So that's how that works.
It just starts back at the top of the next consecutive number and back to it again, and doubles it, triples it, quadruples it. Okay.
That's not hard to use at all. It sounds complicated, but it's not.
It sounds complicated, but it's not. And here's the thing: just think of it as 4 alphabets end to end. Okay, and you just numbered them, right? And except for as soon as you go to the second alphabet, you're talking about double A's, right? When you have 2 A's, and now in simple cipher, 2 A's equals 2, but in fourfold it equals 25. All of a sudden, boom, we have completely different values and different messages being sent.
Gotcha.
That's its purpose. Short cipher is really kind of neat. They use this a lot with names. In my research so far, it looks like this was one of the favorite systems of Sir Walter Raleigh, frankly. But basically, you have the alphabet A through Z doubling over on itself in a table of, and each of these letters being assigned a value of 1 through 9. So multiple letters can actually have the same values in Elizabethan short cipher. Okay, so but again, when you calculate, say, Sir Francis Bacon, as you're going to see on the following slide, if you add up the letters in Francis Bacon itself, the total is 55, one of his cipher signatures, and that's where it comes from.
So why do you think he called it Elizabethan cipher?
It was just called short cipher because it was 1 through 9.
Okay.
All right. But when you look at it historically, people usually refer to it as Elizabethan short cipher.
Okay.
For the remainder of the evening, I'm just going to be calling it short cipher.
All right.
Great question, Jeff. Yeah. So the other thing we look for are signposts. Little messages that tell you there's a message here. You're on the right track. In this image, we have the first one that I want to talk about. So the very first thing you do is you look for any signature numbers, and right above here at the top of the page, you see the number 67, and that is the value of Francis in simple cipher, right? So that means that I should probably pay attention in this area to see if there are any messages appearing, in which there are. Any kind of mistakes you see, things that you say, oh, wow, they really didn't know how to number things very well back then. Well, they did. They're using them as clues. And usually when there's a mistake, quote unquote, it's necessary for the message to be conveyed. And so the other thing we look for are surface messages that just, again, these are just little signposts or flags that they wave in your face saying, hey, you need to look here. There's something for you to find. Here, what we have is what I call a pictorial message, a pictorial cipher, because it involves the picture of this whale here. And when we find these symbols of the rosy cross and bacon, what that does is that tells us that there's a message here. Now, in this case, also the examples of the triple tau or even the double tau are symbols of the rosy cross and bacon, as well as the letters AA. So when you see any of these things, usually it's a signpost of you need to look here and pay attention.
Now, question for you, Jake, and Pat from Mississippi chimes in this in. It's not the same King James as we had then, because the 1611, you have specific mismatched typefaces and things of that sort, where in today's version, you don't have those. It's kind of all edited out, and it's just all, the clues are missing from the current version, unless you're talking about the Masonic Bible, the Freemasons Bible. Is that make a difference?
Yeah, huge difference, because the Freemasons maintained all the quote unquote mistakes because they saw them for what they were.
Same verbiage, but there's no errors.
Same words. And all of our scholars today, in their infinite knowledge, decided they would edit it correctly and get rid of all of the quote unquote errors. And what they did was they got rid of all the clues. They changed the font, they changed the typeface. So the modern King James is not. Has none of the things that we're going to be talking about today. If the original map appears there without with the mistakes, well, then it's there. But
and Jake, the King James, the 1611, it's my understanding that there are only 750 copies printed first round with the mistakes. Was that just for members of the Rose Cross, in your opinion?
In my opinion, it would have been. Yes, it would have been for the original members. It would have been for their immediate circle, and it would have been specifically to be placed in the churches, and so that they would be preserved and protected. And so the idea was to get a certain number out there so that other people later on who were no longer members would come and take a look at it and say, well, this looks interesting. Oh, I think I see something here. And in that way, that was the way of initiation of the Rosy Cross. You couldn't just go knock on the door and say, hey, can I apply? You had to make the discoveries, find the clues, follow where they lead you, and then learn their secrets.
Yep.
So
Jan asked the question, what was the date of the new Bible? And I mean, I don't know, after the one with the ciphers in it was created. Is that what you mean, Jan?
Yeah, I'm not sure what Jan means.
I think she means the 1611. When was it scrubbed of all the clues? And that I would imagine that's an ongoing process. I mean, it was scrubbed over and over and over by different hands.
Yeah, by multiple. It happened multiple times, Shan. It's a great question. Yeah. So let me show you this pictorial cipher quickly. 67 is the value of the name Francis in simple cipher. Then we have the word "the" directly underneath it. Then we have a picture of a whale. Now, in Latin, the word for whale is ceta, C-E-T-E. This will be appearing on a later slide as well. But it's also, ceta also means dolphin in Latin. So right here at the top of the page 75 is Francis the Dolphin is the message in this pictorial cipher, which I thought was really kind of cool. I just put. Here on Mount Calgary, you have these three crosses, which will be highly significant later on. But what you really have here is a symbolic triple tau. So again, these are just signposts that when I see these things, I'm like, okay, there's something to follow here. Now, the significant numbers we're going to be paying attention to appear here. These are the most commonly accepted cipher signatures associated with Bacon, Shakespeare, and the Rosy Cross. Now, we're not going to need to really vary or dally from any of these very far. There are only a couple of others we're going to include. But the most well-known, of course, is 33 for Bacon in simple cipher. You see it right there in the chart. The next, of course, 67 for Francis in simple cipher, like I just showed you in the pictorial cipher in the previous slide. The one not appearing on here, I didn't include, unfortunately, short cipher, but Francis Bacon is 55 in short cipher. And here you can see if we add up the letters of Francis and simple cipher, I did this here for you as the substitute each of the letters. It does actually, the math works out at 67. Down here, the Fra Rosie Cross, the simple cipher value is 157, which is a significant value that does appear encrypted within this map as well. The last one that's not here is 153. This is a really significant number, and if I really got into the math, everyone's eyes would glaze over, like I sometimes do to you people. I'm so sorry. But for our intents and purposes, we're just going to say that it's the value of King Bacon in reverse cipher. This was a known signature back then. And does that look familiar, John?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That looks very familiar, Jake. That brought that to your attention. I mean,
you did.
Jesus, I mean, that's crazy.
Well, okay, gang. Just a quick aside. I promise this won't take long. But this is what John and I do. And all of a sudden, my phone rings and I see it's him, and I'm like, "Oh, what does he have?" And he says, "Jake, check this out." And he sends this to me. He says, "How many cipher signatures do you see in this?" And I started looking at him like, "Holy crap, John!"
Yeah, exactly.
Next thing you know, it's like John and I are on the phone for an hour, and I have this picture, and I'm holding it up into the mirror and looking at the mirror image. I'm like, "Oh my God, there's a message in reverse," and all this crazy stuff. So this is kind of the thing we do. So, but a cipher signature is just the sum of the letters in each of these ciphers of names or words, right? And that's what I just showed you in the previous table. So, like we said, the example of Bacon and simple cipher, the way it works, B is 2, A is 1, C is 3, O is 14, N is 13. You add them all together, you get 33. That's why 33 is the signature of Bacon and simple cipher. Okay. And so again, I know I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, but I think it's important just to talk about these very basic things, because these very basic numbers are highly significant going forward. So, and it's important to know that each cipher actually will produce values that are significant in other ciphers. You can produce a value in simple that is a significant value when you look at it and say, oh, this is the reverse cipher of Bacon, and so on. So what I do here is I just follow the clues, right? So given all of those cipher basics, we look at this image here. And so I'm noticing that, across the top and along the left-hand side, we have coordinates of this map. Okay. And here we see 67. Everyone see that?
Mm-hmm.
It says 67. Well, that's a mistake. It's supposed to be 63. And also we have the letter A. Remember one of our signposts, AA?
Mm-hmm.
Well, look here in the steeple of this building. It's another A in the picture. You can see it right there.
Oh, yeah.
So we have AA, and this A is pointing at the 67. It's supposed to be 63, but they want us to see 67. So as I continued looking down below, there's a 33rd parallel. And isn't that an interesting juxtaposition there? That's weird, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, there are some very interesting things going on here. We have 67 for Francis. It's supposed to be a 63, but when you look at it, you can tell it's 67. 33 is Bacon, right? In simple cipher. And then next to it, we have a hanging man.
Would that be Judas?
Very good. And
oh, all right. Woo-hoo.
Very good. You were. And John, you brought this to my attention that, it's usually the hanging man is a symbol of Judas. And I said that's appropriate because I believe that Sir Francis Bacon viewed himself as Judas when it comes to his role in the prosecution and execution of Robert Devereux, the second Earl of Essex. They were close friends. But the Queen ordered Bacon to be the prosecutor. So, seeing these ideas here and these weird juxtapositions, I decided these must be some starting points, right? So, what we do? We start drawing lines. And that's what's going to come up here in the next couple of slides. The other thing I noticed was the legend clue. And William, I think you were the one that pointed out to me that 1 and 2 here are missing, along with the number 5. And so this actually highlights the number 34, which it's not relevant to our discussion today, but that's one of the primary cipher signatures of Sir Walter Raleigh. And then underneath that, we have a 6 and 7, which is 67. So it indicates that there's more at work here. And then as I went down through, I noticed that number 9 was italicized after this little space in here. Dead space is always a clue.
Mm.
And then here in sepulcher, notice you have the spelling of sepulcher down below. There are 3 sepulchers being noted and their locations on this map. And this one is not complete. There are letters missing. So these letters, the other 2 examples appear below, and it's fully spelled. So it looks like for whatever reason, they ran out of room. The lack of planning, I doubt, was not the issue. And the missing letters are C, H, R, and E. So, gang, this is what I do. I added those letters up, and in simple cipher, sure enough, they total 33.
There it is, 33.
I added them in reverse. 67.
Oh yeah. Oh
Okay.
my gosh.
This is my favorite. I added them in K cipher 111. Bacon in K cipher. Okay,
Now,
so
how would and we've talked, and I mentioned this to you before, but I mean, the man's mind had to work on so many different levels. I mean, it was just
simultaneously, Jeff. Simultaneously, it boggles my mind every time I find this stuff. And here's the thing: moving forward, this legend, this clue right here in the legend, is what led me to conclude by the end of this presentation that this map actually is the location of Bacon's sepulcher. Okay. And he's not in it. He's missing because he's still alive. He's the one revising and editing this Bible, putting this clue in there, and he's not in it yet, but it's his.
So what do you mean by that, Jake?
I mean that he planned his death, he faked his death, and I'm saying that he had constructed his tomb years in advance of his own death.
So you're saying the sepulcher that is Bacon's sepulcher is actually his tomb?
Correct.
Built somewhere physically on the face of this planet?
Correct.
Wow.
And John,
Wow.
this fits in perfectly with your ascended master theory as well, and the ascended master's chamber.
Mm-hmm.
I think that his sepulcher is the ascended master's chamber.
Mm-hmm.
So, like
now,
I said,
folks, you guys, I hope everybody's keeping up with this, because I mean, I am, believe it or not, this is one of those I'm able to keep up with. This man is fascinating.
And Jake,
I'm trying to take this step by step, gang.
So
there's so much here that I need to unpack that I really want to make make sure I'm careful about it.
And Cat Fulton's going, wait, what?
What? So let's back this up.
Sorry, Kat.
Where is our first reference to the chamber or tomb of illumination? I know the answer, but I'm throwing it out there.
Well, you and I found it in the King James Bible, on a very significant page.
Well, I'm thinking Fama as well,
and the Fama Fraternitatis.
Fraternitatis.
Yes, 100%. And so, I think the description of in the Fama Fraternitatis is basically describing his tomb. Yeah. So,
wow.
Once again, this is where I mentioned that we saw that 63 on that previous looked like a 67, and here you see a 67 on the Francis the Dolphin Pictorial cipher. And so on page 75, here's a 67, and I already went through the message as 67 being Francis, and then the word the, and then whale being Cita in Latin. Kind of got ahead of myself because I was excited about it. And Cita also means dolphin, so the message becomes Francis the Dolphin. Dolphin being French for dolphin.
Now,
so
Jake, what's the significance? Jake, what's the significance of the dolphin?
Well, the dolphin. If you're those of you who aren't familiar with my work, thank you, John, because you know I'm getting ahead of myself and I didn't explain that properly. My work has revealed that Sir Francis Bacon was none other than the son of Mary Queen of Scots and Francis II. He was the Dauphin of France. He was the rightful heir to the throne of France and, actually England, ahead of his younger half brother James. So, this was bombshell information back then, and all of that's in my first book. And the evidence that, John, that you've discovered, that Jason has discovered, Williams discovered, just keeps repeating that message over and over and over. So here it is again. Here it is again in the 1611 on the.
He's telling us right there.
Yeah, he's telling us right there. And if he's the Dolphin, that's really just a title for a king or a ruler in waiting, correct?
Yes, the king to be, the
Or a
prince,
queen or a king to be, whoever was the ruler and
Dolphin or
waiting for
Dolphin.
the
Yeah,
Dolphin. And that was the French term for it. If you were
correct,
the Dolphin, you were waiting to ascend to the crown.
correct.
Okay.
And so, and that was something that was denied him. Yeah. So that's why that message repeats everywhere. He wanted history to record it. So what do? We start finding significant lines. And so what I did, I looked at the suggested lines. I drew a line vertically down from 67 and horizontally across from the 33. And they actually meet in a very square structure that is, frames that specific point perfectly. So it's definitely planned. And so that identified that center point. And so then what I did was I just followed these lines where they lead, right? Where do they end up? They're going to point to something that's important. And here we can see the 33 line right here above the hanging man, goes straight across, and it cuts right through these 3 flags of the masts of the ship. And what do we have next to the ship again? Another whale. This is Jonas's whale. And so there's a reference there, and I'll show you why that's significant in a moment. But before we do that, let's drop down to the bottom of the map to see where this quote unquote 63/67 leads. Well, as it turns out, here you see 63 the way it's supposed to appear, and you can see how different it is than our 67. There's a completely empty space. This looks significantly like a 7, and then there's a tiny little dot under the 6. Here you see an actual 63, right? But notice how far off they are? That's a mistake, isn't it? What a terrible map, Sir Francis Bacon. So once again, here's a mistake that told me, okay, there are extra minutes and degrees here for a specific purpose. And that purpose is to lead us, you'll see, to Oak Island. I hope.
And Jake, what's really interesting is you see the same type of errors also in Shakespeare's works.
Correct.
We discussed that with the same type of, is that a 63, a 67, or I-33, which is not. So this is consistent with the mistakes that also appears in the first folio, correct?
Correct. And so I was missing an animation here in the presentation real quick, so I'm glad you filled in with that. That's exactly what they do. So so as I drew that straight line downward, and it actually goes below the Jerusalem map, and there's like you saw on the first couple of slides, an entire fold-out map of on both pages. And at the bottom of the page, you see yet another under the southern Mediterranean coast, a whole nother scale of longitude at the bottom of the map. And we notice the mistake here because it doesn't add up. It's actually an additional 12 minutes at the top of the page that do not appear at the bottom of the page. And so, again, this difference is necessary for the message and the coordinates that lead to Oak Island. So this speaks to intent every time. When you see this type of glaring error, this speaks to intent. So, and if you notice, like, and I pointed out the difference between the 3s here already. It's really pretty obvious. It's pretty striking. So what happens with the 33 line here? Again, what kind of significant points does it cross? Well, it crosses Ascends Gate, letter R. Ascends, when you add it up in simple cipher, is 77. That's Rex Bacon in simple cipher. So, okay, again, I'm on the right track here. And then again, here we see it cutting across the mast of the ship, pointing to the ship here. And we have 3 flags. They're raising flags here. So we have the whale juxtaposition here. We just saw the message of Francis the Dolphin. And here we see the whale again. So that means that this ship is significant. It's Jonah's ship. And here we have a little biblical passage about the way that, the same way that Jonah descended in the belly of the whale for 3 days, so would Christ be in his tomb for 3 days. But it's spelled Jonas. So, misspellings are clues. It's 55 in simple cipher. That's Francis Bacon in short cipher. It's 70 in reverse cipher, which is the value, again, of Dolphin in simple cipher. And it was 107 in K cipher. Now, this is not a known value. This is not one of our usual basic signatures for Sir Francis Bacon. So I had to really think about the context here? Well, the context is Francis Bacon is the Dolphin. Okay, so as such, we have to take a look at what his real name would be, and his father was Francis II of House Valois Angoulême, and so when we add up these values in, again, short cipher, we have 55 in simple cipher is Francis Bacon in short cipher. Well, Francois Valois Angoulême in short cipher is 107. So the message here is Francis Bacon is the Dolphin, Francois Valois Angoulême. And again, juxtaposed with a whale. He's telling us who he is. And so that means that this ship is his ship. It's significant, right? So what's its purpose? Well, you both know it, and everyone watching, I said at the very beginning, what's one of the methods I use? I look for significant lines being suggested. Now, what's the purpose of a ship? What are you supposed to use it for? You navigate.
Right.
What direction is it headed? Can you guys tell? You don't need to know.
West.
You don't need to know cardinal directions, but how would you tell which way it's pointed?
You would look at the sails, would you not?
You look at the sails, but also where is it
The
pointed?
direction.
The bow is pointing.
Oh, the bow.
West.
I look for lines. I look
West.
for lines that suggest. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line along the. By the way, the bow line and this first line of the rigging, the straighter one. I use this one because it's straighter. They're parallel, so it doesn't matter which one of these two lines you use.
Jake, does it point to the corner of the map? Is that where it's pointing to?
It's pointing directly to the corner of the map, John. It's pointing directly
Wow.
to the corner of the map. So this is what I do. I just take this line and I start measuring it, the angle digitally. And again, all these clues, I just follow them where they lead. You just use, common sense and practically what is a ship for? You navigate with it. So how do we head there? We look for the direction. Well, where's the ship pointing? And you look at the front and where are these lines pointing? And yes, they point to the upper left corner. So I look for suggested lines and I follow them where they lead. We follow the prow and that angle is 153 degrees. King Bacon in reverse cipher. And so it points to the top left corner and this is where it ends up. Now, that's a pretty close proximity of almost nailing both of those crosses right through the center, isn't it? So I found that to be highly significant. This was very suggestive to me. So I thought, well, what would the angle be if I drew a line going the other way, but aligning the direct centers of these crosses? So it's not a perfect alignment. Well, what happens when we make it perfect? And so sure enough, it lines up perfectly with the very edge or the very first minute line, and it passes directly through both crosses. And I go from the crosses all the way back down to the ship to see where it points on the ship this time through the direct centers. And this is 23 degrees below parallel. But when we subtract that from 180, what do we get? It leads right down to the crow's nest of the ship. Where do you navigate from? Your navigator's down on deck, and then they're hollering up to the seaman in the crow's nest, hey, what do you see?
Well, 157 is Fra Rosy Cross.
From the ship, Fra Rosy Cross in simple cipher. Okay. All of these guideposts, all of these things, they're telling me, they're pointing me in the right direction. I'm on the right track. Okay, so what do I do with this information, right? It's Fra Rosy Cross in simple cipher. What tool do we use in navigation back then that looked like crosses? You can use a cross in order to navigate by using it as a sextant.
Marine sextant.
So here's the big picture of it. You can see the line going up there. That's 157 Fra Rosy Cross, piercing directly through the two crosses. And it's like they're drawn at the perfect angle where they look like they're facing in the right direction. The third cross is the opposite. We'll get to that eventually, but differences are really significant. They're important, so we'll get there. So the pictorial message, where is this leading? Where is this ship headed? Well, when we look at this picture on Mount Calvary, most people they glance at this, and all of the artwork on this is exquisitely done, right? It's really well done. It's very precise. But this is not a building next to an embankment. This is a cutaway image of a cave.
They look
This
like
is a cutaway
books.
image of a crypt, and I say that's a coffin.
Oh, okay. All right. You know, you do realize right now that you've got about 80 people that are staring at their phones and their iPads and everything real quick, trying to see this.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, gang. Listen,
Because I'm trying to get closer and closer to the screen. But
well,
you're right. I mean, the two crosses are pointing this way, the ones that line up, and then the other one's obviously different for a reason. And now it looked like the edge of a book, but you're
but when
telling
you
me that that's more of a coffin.
when you look at this, it looks like a cutaway of a cave or a crypt, and this looks
Yep.
like a coffin inside.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
so,
I see it.
and with the line cutting across through here, it actually crosses off the M. One of the things that we do is when we're drawing our lines, we look to see what letters it cuts across. Now, if it's a group of letters, you can actually add the values of those letters to identify a signature, and it happens all the time. But when there aren't any other letters, what you do is you subtract it from the other letters it's with. In this case, Calvary equals 67, 133, and 197 in simple reverse and case cipher. And so 67, of course, is Francis. 133 is a primary cipher signature of Baron Verulam in simple cipher. 197 is really interesting. It's not a known cipher, but that number appears regularly in my research. And what I've been able to figure out is that 19 represents the name Francis because the 19th prime number is 67. Okay. 7 is the letter G, which we know represents the name Bacon also. So 197 in that way can actually represent the name Francis Bacon.
Now you mentioned Baron. Who's the Baron now? I'm not
Baron
familiar.
Verulam was a title that King James awarded to Francis Bacon.
Okay.
So he
that's
was Baron
I did
Verulam.
not
Yeah,
know that.
sorry about
I
that.
learned so much every time. Okay.
It was one of the titles that James bestowed upon him once he
Wow.
became king.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
Wow.
So I'm saying that this is gives the location of Bacon's sepulcher because of all of these cipher signatures, and you're going to see that there's also a later corroboration going along with this as well.
Now the three crosses, Jake, they could be interpreted as a triple tau, correct?
Correct. That's what I said at the very beginning.
Yeah. So where I'm going with that is he is the ascendant master at this point,
Correct.
as the triple tau symbol.
Correct.
Wow.
And as you can see, it's like he's showing us where his sepulcher is.
Wow.
So
That's
we know
amazing.
that crosses can be used to navigate as a sextant. Okay. So we can identify locations using these crosses. And think about it, guys. If you look at these, we look for how, what lines are suggested here. Well, the arms. And what do they point at? Numbers, degrees here on the scale of longitude and latitude. So what we have here is a group of coordinates that are encoded using these crosses. So because they were drawn at these angles, they're going to be pointing at significant numbers, and he got to choose what angles they'd be drawn at, correct? So he was able to, and remember, we have the longitude line up above the crosses that has the extra 12 minutes added to it, specifically for this purpose.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. So we use the crosses as a sextant, and we're able to identify our coordinates. So we're going to use the arms or the crossbars of these crosses to identify where they are. So thinking about this logically, coming from the ship, the first cross is actually there on the right-hand side, and the arms are going to indicate the latitude and longitude. So the longitude is above, the latitude's to the left or below. And from the ship, the first cross is the one on the right, and this is going to indicate our degrees. Got it? So, you think degrees, minutes, seconds, right? So it's the first cross from the ship. So therefore, that first cross should be indicating our degrees. And so we look at the right cross first and see where it leads us. And we draw a line right across the top of the top arm as if we're using it as a sextant. And remember that he drew this not as a 63 for longitude, but a 67. This is highly significant. So this is the trick to it. Each one of these stages has this little twist that you have to think about for a second and say, oh, I see what you did there. In this case, we're starting with this latitude of between 66 and 67. And so we draw that line right across the top of the armbar. And here we have our coordinates. It terminates halfway on the top between 36. So we count 32, 34, 36, and here's 38. And it touches halfway in between. So we have 37 in terms of minutes. And remember, it's 66, and this is 67 degrees east because we're east of England and France. So that becomes 66 degrees, 37 minutes. Makes sense, right?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
we're going to continue, and let's see if we can find our latitude here. And this also has a trick to it. The left arm, as we go down, the line terminates halfway between 44 and 45. So in this case, the trick is that these minutes are actually the degrees because this is the first cross. Does that make sense? So what we're doing is we're going 42, 44, and then 46, and it's once again halfway between. So that becomes 44, or just about a quarter of the way. So it's 44 degrees, 30 minutes. So the next step is we have to determine the seconds. And well, we have a second cross. And that's what that's for. And it's the second cross for the seconds. Once again, draw that line strictly right across the top of the arms. And the longitude above is, you can see it points to here right at 32 seconds. And down below it's right dead center, 47 seconds. So we now have a longitude of 66 degrees, 37 minutes, 32 seconds, a latitude of 44 degrees, 30 minutes, and 47 seconds. Now, we know that latitude is about right. It's almost exactly right for Oak Island. That longitude is way off. It's not on Oak Island.
44.5 is the latitude for Oak Island. So
Exactly.
we're right in the ballpark.
44.5. And so we have to remember that they would have been using the Paris meridian. And this is east of today's prime meridian by 2 degrees, 20 minutes, 14 seconds. So we have to subtract that from this original number. And now we have a longitude of 64 degrees, 17 minutes, 18 seconds.
That's almost the second coordinate for. I mean, it's spot on. Holy Moses!
Could you believe it?
That's Oak Island.
That's Oak Island. It's on Oak Island.
My God.
So here's the thing, guys. Any of you who have Google Earth and you want to do this little push pin experiment, I want to pop out of this and I want to watch your faces if I could. But here's the longitude and latitude of the original location of the money pit, in my opinion. 64 degrees, 17 minutes, 18 seconds. 44 degrees latitude, 30 minutes, 47 seconds. And I'm going to pop out and...
well, can we keep those up so people can actually Google Earth them?
Yep. Hold on.
Okay.
And so
how do you type that in for coordinates? I'm not sure how to do that.
the trick is, and again, you need to use the app. The website probably will not work. Okay, you have to have the push pin feature that when you pull up Oak Island and you click it on the push pin. Okay, and then what you do is there will be fields where you will see the coordinates of Oak Island wherever the push pin happens to be, and you just adjust them a little bit to 17 minutes, 18 seconds, 30 minutes, 47 seconds, and then hit enter, and you'll find the location of the original money pit. In my opinion.
Wow. So our viewers can do this like live right now. We can run this experiment live.
They can do this live right now.
Let's do it.
All right, let me see.
I want to see the reaction of everyone that's doing it. And Jeff, you're going to do it on your end, and then
Brian, but I'm not sure exactly. I might need help with. I'm not.
Can we throw those coordinates back up, Jack?
Yeah, sure. Hey, Winston Smith, I love. Are you also JR, my favorite troll on YouTube? Looks like it from your ad hominem attacks again. I'm glad you've gone from ad hominem to ad hominem attacks instead of just your bare assertions. So that's really special. Yeah, let me put that up for you, John.
Having too much fun. Unbelievable. And that's going to give you the exact location of the money pit.
I believe that this is the original location of the money pit, and when people
That's-
actually see where it is, you're going to understand why.
Wow.
And Jeff, do you remember when I did the pop on with you? You know, the update, and you were giving an update, and I said, I'm really glad that this is the pop when I chose to pop on. Okay. This should have been more fun. People are having a tough time putting in the push pins. But the thing is that what was your question, John? I'm sorry. I was reading comments.
No. We have can you show it on the map?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I some of us, I'm not great at putting in coordinates, so I was
I
trying
get
to
it.
type them in, and then we got
And
some
someone, I noticed that someone said that it put them in Russia. They put them in backwards. They had the longitude and the latitude reversed. That's where that would be. So here it is.
What?
There it is.
The one that you have marked with the blue, the money pit.
Nope. That's the blue money pit that is
Okay.
automatic on Google Earth. My yellow push pin right here is the original location,
The Women's Memorial.
the northern edge of the Women's Memorial.
Holy Moses.
Now, right?
What?
Oh, man.
Are you kidding?
So I'm not kidding. And
My God.
here's the thing, gang. They originally believed that this was just a searcher tunnel or searcher dig site, but I think that what it really was the original money pit site, and right there on the very northern edge of the Women's Memorial is the original location of the money pit. Now, Jeff, what were you talking about and giving an update on that day that I did the pop on?
Oh my goodness.
Sure.
I have to think about it now. What were we talking about? Or was
Well,
I
they,
talking about?
they were clearing out a new site for
Yes.
in order to start drilling. And where was it?
It was well, actually, they had done a lot of work in the Women's Memorial, and they were fixing up. It looked like they were putting some sort of a lid or a top on it, a metal, and they flattened the area all out around it. And then they were the long reach excavator did some work up on the hill, which would be right up, like right almost between 10X and the Women's Memorial, right up there on the top of the hill, and that's where the big crane now sits. They built a pad.
Yeah.
And that's where the big crane now sits. It's on the road right up there behind it.
Yeah. And
And now we know that there was a searcher shaft that was put in to that is there in the base of the Women's Memorial. But it's actually in front of or to the south of your push pin.
correct, just barely. It's like the northern edge. Yeah. So this is a really interesting coincidence. And one thing that I want to point out is, well, we have one more cross left.
Oh yeah.
What does it do?
It's got to mean something.
It's got to mean something. And, it does. It faces a different direction. It's turned. So this means that there's some kind of special trick to it. And if we accept that, this cross is above this cutaway showing the location of a crypt, well, it appears over this opening of it. So, I mean, in my mind, this is speculation on my part, gang. At this point, I don't like to speculate. I usually just follow the clues where they lead. But in this case, this juxtaposition, maybe it's indicating, the location of the fabled back door into the money pit. Is this a way in? And so here's what I did. This reversal implies a change of the rules. Something's going to be different here. And we can't just use the arms of the cross anymore, because this left arm, as we draw a line here, it leads right up to the number 50. Okay, so we're just going to cut to the chase. We have, if we consider that this is degrees and minutes, and that this is also seconds of a different location, well, what we can do is, okay, it points to 50, and if we follow this, the right arm down, it points at no numbers. So I'm wondering, what other alignments do we have here? Well, we also have the stem of the cross right here. What does this align to? When I tried pointed up here to 18, we were off island, so I went downward. And so here's the strange part of this. All of a sudden, we have an interaction with our hanging man in the tree. The line downward goes straight down along the left-hand side of this little gallows tree here, right alongside of the edge of it. And so taking a closer look, you can actually see that the body forms the number 3. And that is the letter C, or as they often use the letter C as in C. In other words, C here. And here you can see a close-up of it, once again, signifying this branch in the hanging man. And when you look at the branch and the rope, what letters formed? It's a cross. It's a tau.
Mm-hmm.
Where does it point, everyone?
33.
Yep. It's pointing right at the number 33. So we now have other seconds to add to the original coordinates. So if we use the third cross as more seconds and change the coordinates to them, we now have a latitude, again, of 44 degrees, 30 minutes, 50 seconds, and the original longitude of, because we have to go back to the original in order to do the math of the subtraction for the Paris meridian. So it's 66 degrees, 37 minutes, 33 seconds. Subtracting our Paris meridian adjustment, we have a longitude of 64 degrees, 17 minutes, 19 seconds. So let's put another X on the map for, again, this is speculation, but I suspect that this could be an interesting area to search. We plotted on Google Earth, and let me pull that in.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And you can see it there.
Oh, wow.
Okay. We have clear areas all around it, and then, this is obscured by tree cover.
So that's the entrance to get into that area.
I think that's entirely possible. Yes, Jeff. I think that's what this indicates. And the distance here, in terms of tunneling works, is it's very doable. It's very easily done back then.
Wow.
So
okay, now go ahead.
Okay. I look for correlations. I look for corroboration, and so I'm looking for other features on the island directly due west of the Money Pit area. Was the drilled anchor stone in the stone paved area. And I mean, it was exact. It was exact. Due west of the possible entrance was also one of the other drilled stones. And the location was exact. And so I thought, is it possible that if we're looking at all of these due west, due east alignments, could we have a due south alignment for this entrance down to what Marty believes was the offset chamber? And I suspect that the answer is yes. And so this is what it looks like. The possible location of the offset chamber, if that is the entrance. Again, and I don't like to participate in speculation, but this is a logical conclusion I've been trying to make based upon the clues I've seen. The tunnel due south of this entrance leads, these lines cross right at this point that I am calling the vault here next to the original money pit location. And this chamber is, John, you're going to like this, 72 feet due west of the original money pit location. And 72 is significant why. So here's the conclusion, gang. I believe that the 1611 King James Bible contains a treasure map. I think the Freemasons used the same exact version of this Bible, and that's why they have such a high level of interest in Oak Island in this area. The Women's Memorial is not a later searcher site, but I think is the original money pit. And so the remaining cross provides a location of a possible entrance to an offset chamber and Bacon's sepulcher. That's what I think's going on, gang.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is Bacon buried under there?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
And based upon my work, I think that we're going to if he's still there, okay. The cipher texts all state his royal birth records are there, that he's there, that there's gold and silver there. There are also other cipher texts talking about other deposits by Walter Raleigh and Sir Francis Drake. So we're talking multiple sites, but I think in that location, we could very well be looking at the vault of the Ascended Master, Sir Francis Bacon, as described in Alma Fraternitatis.
Wow. That's incredible. So, yeah, the pointing out of those stones that you marked out straight due west, that's very significant because they lined up exactly. You said they was exactly lined up.
Yeah, on Google Earth, gang, Google Earth can be off by between 2 meters and 5 meters. And what I did was I zoomed in as closely as I could to get as precise of a measurement as I could. And yeah, I mean, it was a straight line.
Wow.
It was a straight line.
Wow.
So it's not one of those things where it's like, close is close enough. It's like, this is, if you walk due east from these points, you're going to find something significant.
Yeah, so a couple of people brought up some interesting things. Henry DeWitt and Henry and Tom were just out in Mahone Bay and met with a lot of people over there, and they got some pictures and stuff. And Henry said, "Yes, Jeff, that's where the team on Oak Island seems to be working at this time." How interesting is that? And the other thing that you talked about. And it made me think, okay, now you've got that push pin right there just on the north edge of the bottom section of the Women's Memorial.
Right.
And then you got due west from there about, I'm sorry, 70, how many feet? 73 feet?
72 feet.
Yep. 72 feet.
72 feet.
Right in between those, in that line, I am pretty sure, if you guys remember when they were drilling and they were trying to figure out where they were going to put their caissons, and they were doing their regular drill program with the 6-inch well pipe.
Mm-hmm.
When they drilled right there in front of the Women's Memorial, actually in the money pit edge of it, on the money pit edge of it,
right,
they hit a spot where there was water shooting up the pipe, and it was shooting, air was coming out and water was coming out. And Marty had mentioned right then and there, he had said something about, that's when he started talking about the offset chamber.
Correct.
And he thought maybe they had hit an air pocket somewhere along that line going to the offset chamber. And it was an air pocket that was compressed air, and it was shooting that air, and water was shooting up through there. I think it was in line of where you're talking, that line going due west.
Yeah, the last spot that they drilled, and it, the last update of Google Earth, I kind of zoomed in, and by my estimation, they were probably only 30 feet off from that chamber. I mean, in my opinion, I mean, if all of these calculations are correct, I mean, I'm very positive that is the original location of the money pit.
Wow.
As far as the offset chamber is concerned, again, all I'm doing is I'm trying to make an inference based upon the details I have, using logic, putting them together. It tracks. It follows that if we're looking at due east-west, and then we're also looking at due south-north, then due south of that possible entrance would be the chamber. Yeah.
Yeah. Jan mentioned that means that the chamber is flooded. Not necessarily, Jan. If the offset chamber is like Marty said it was, and again, this is speculation on even his part, that the offset chamber comes off of the money pit and then goes up, then the air or the water would not be able to if it's above the water line, then it would still be dry.
Exactly. Yep.
That's the idea behind it. But
and people know I've been skeptical about the 90-foot stone over the years. And
Oh yeah.
if the 90-foot stone was a real thing, and if it truly did have that cipher and code on it, I suspect the correct decryption of that would have told them to, dig up at such and such an angle, due west, and they would have found it.
Well,
In my opinion, I mean, if that legend holds that artifact was a real thing, that's what I think it was for.
Wow, that's amazing. I and again, it's we've heard so many different stories, we've heard so many different theories, and as I've told you before, I trust your numbers because you not only, and again, this goes back to something that John always says about being repeatable. If you can repeat it by different methods and you still come up with the same answer, what does that tell you?
Yeah,
It's not just a fluke.
it's not a fluke.
That's
and
amazing.
the other thing too is I think it's important to reiterate that when I started really looking at this map, I wasn't doing Oak Island research. I wasn't looking to put an X on the map for the guys on the island. Thanks, Wanda. So the thing is that I just followed the clues, and then once I started doing the calculations of the coordinates, I'm like, yikes, this is looking familiar, and there it is.
This is amazing. I'm wow.
No, TJ, I'm not going to mention them.
Okay, I'm going to go back and look at. We've had a lot
We
of
have a
questions
ton
that
of
were going
questions,
by,
yeah.
and I'm going to try to go back and look at a few of them here. Kat, when you were talking about the master chamber, Kat said, "In the master's chamber, they gathered for the feast, or for the feast." Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Now that song has been going in my head ever since I read that. Thank you very much, Kat.
Here's one I'm going to throw up there. That Francis Bacon actually do the drawings for the Bible and put the mistakes into the scripture.
I'm going to say yes, and here's why. All of my research repeats over and over and over again that Sir Francis Bacon was a master artist. He studied art while he was a teenager in France. I mean, he studied art while he was, growing up as well during his classical education. But I think that he trained under masters when he was in France. And I have found so many Bacon signatures on famous paintings by quote unquote unknown artists, right? That actually have ciphers encrypted in them within the text itself. A lot of that's coming out in my next book. That yes, I think that he drew it himself. I think that he and Sir Walter Raleigh, frankly, basically did a lot of their own work in terms of illustrations of their books and so on.
Here's another one. And here's somebody. This is Sean asking this question. The letter G equals Bacon. Is that connected to the G in the Freemason symbol?
Yes.
Yes, in my opinion, 100%. I think that was the original meaning, and it's why he inserted it into Freemasonry, representing geometry and the grand architect of the universe and all the rest. But I think the original meaning was, he's when you look at the square and compass with the G at the center of it, Bacon's at the center of Freemasonry.
And what's really cool, Jake, is the Freemasons give you the square and compass, and those are exactly the two pieces of equipment you need to do what you just did.
Correct.
If you have the square and the compass, which were primitive map making tools back then, this is exactly what you need. You had to have the degrees. And so they give it to you with G representing Bacon right in the middle. So the ring that they really walk around is representative of the founder of Freemasonry, which is Bacon.
100%. And it's also the meaning of the encryption on the what's called the companion's jewel of the Royal Archdeacon of Freemasonry, which in Latin it says, if you can put these things together, thou knowest enough. And what it really means is, or if thou comprehendest this, but in Latin, it's literal, if you can put these things together. And it's the upright triangle and the chalice symbol, which is the square and compass. So if you can put those two things together, you can figure things out. Wow. That's what that Royal Arch degree inscription means.
Yeah. Jan kind of asked this here, wondering if Nolan's cross had the same measurements. I know. I'm not sure. This was back a while. This was about
Mhm.
8:30. This was like an hour.
Yeah. Oh wow, Jan.
Half hour ago.
It depends on which measurements you're referring to, because I believe, and John, you might know this too. I believe that the width of Nolan's Cross is 720 feet.
Yeah, 360 each way.
Yeah. So which is from the original money pit, I think the offset chamber is 72 feet away. So again, we have these repeating numbers. 72 is the number of degrees in the interior angle of a pentagram, and
And
it's
what's
opposite. Go
and
ahead,
the
John.
360 refers to two consecutive circles, 360, 360. That's the degrees
Yeah.
in a circle.
Yeah.
So it's really telling you what to use. Use the compass.
Yeah.
Let's get this in 72. 72.
Yeah, the obtuse angle of in a pentagram is 108, which is that's Francis in reverse cipher. Yeah.
Yep. Signature cipher.
Yep.
Wow.
Let's see. I'm just going back through there. Oh, I just look at this. Some of the things that we passed by. I mean, I was so enthralled while you were talking about all this. I missed so much of the chat, and I typed in there to people, tell them, "Hey, I'm going to be back. I'll try to get these questions for you."
Yeah.
Let's see.
Look at Jim. That's great. That's awesome.
Yep. Let's see.
This is an interesting one. So did Bacon think he was God?
Pat, that's Pat from Mississippi, correct? John, you and I have had this conversation multiple times.
Yeah.
I still don't know the answer to that, Pat. I really don't.
The ascendant master theory would say it's
God
above as the divinity within. And when
Right.
you look at the Roman Catholic symbol of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, Jesus points to his heart, the divinity within, and he points to the heavens. So it's as above, so below.
Below, yeah.
Below the divinity within. And it's exactly what Jesus said. The kingdom of earth is spread throughout the world or the earth, and men do not see it, the kingdom of God. So that is the divinity within you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I think that, but that's heretical to the church back in 1600s and 1500s.
Exactly, and that's where I'm conflicted, simply because I know, Bacon's reputation is recorded reputation. He was devout Anglican and Protestant, and the idea. I mean, and again, this is what is being recorded exoterically. In other words, this is the persona he is putting out there in public. Was he privately, an esotericist? This idea of believing himself to be a God man, a man who became a god through the ascended master wisdom. I think the evidence is there for the ascended master argument. John, you've laid that out so well so many times, but I don't know if he really viewed it that way in a sense that would have been heretical. Maybe he did.
Well, he would have viewed it as an actualization of what humans would put on the earth to do.
Right.
Was to ascend towards the heavens, to ascend to make yourself divine, or
Right.
to let the divinity within you shine, so that you would be pure enough to enter heaven and to be in the presence of the Almighty. So
Right,
that's
right.
kind of the gist of that. Now,
Sure.
if the Rosicrucians inherited this from the Templars, which I do believe it's the same line of thought, it certainly explains why 1307 happened.
Correct.
Because that view of God within it's very heretical, and the church had to put a stop to that, especially if there's a following, which the Templars had.
Well, the church had placed themselves between regular people and God.
Correct.
And this idea that people can come to know God on their own, that was the heresy. Yeah.
That was the heresy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you had to do it through the church.
Had to do it through the church. The indulgences, and then the corruption of the church and everything else. You're messing with a power structure. At this point, when a power structure or an institution of power becomes threatened in any way, well, guess what? Anyone that's threatening that specific institution of power has to go. And it was the Templars.
Yeah, to answer that question, Facebook user, this information has been passed along. It's been out there. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't see who that was, because I scrolled back to find questions that we've missed, and that's why I don't know who
And Amy makes a great point. The
Great
divine
point,
right
Amy.
of,
Divine right of kings. Absolutely, Amy. Yeah, you're perfectly on point there.
And here's John D. What do we have here? And we've talked about this, Jake.
Yeah, at some point we're going to do a deep dive on John D. I think we need to. It needs to be done. So many people keep bringing him up. I've been avoiding him on purpose. There's just so much there to unpack, and well.
Let's see. Now I'm looking over on the.
Good point, Jim. That's right, Christy. It's that tradition that comes down all the way down from the pharaohs. The pharaohs actually believed they were a god, as opposed to the Christian kings who believed that they were, had the right from God for sure.
Well, Jim makes a great point.
Yeah, great point, Jim. For sure.
Well, I tell you what, that's what one of the questions that I was going to ask is, have you brought this up to the Leginas? Obviously, you have.
I passed it through the proper channels. Yes.
Right. Okay. So whether or not maybe that's
unbelievable.
You would think if you would think that if I don't know, I shouldn't speculate. I shouldn't go down that rabbit hole there because. You never know what the future holds.
Well, what I see, it's like when you mentioned that on your update that they were actually clearing out that area, flattening it for getting ready to search. The way I see it is, chances are very good. This is, and John, you and I have talked about redundancy. There's so many messages out there, I think, that will all give the same information. I just happen to decrypt this one. I think that there are other clues that were left behind that maybe someone else also put an X on the map through some other circuitous route that was not associated with this, but it was associated with some other, tradition or wisdom. And so, this information would find its way to them 100%. So,
well, it's different modalities. If you're an architect, you're going to code it architecturally. If you're a writer, you're gonna you record it in prose or poetry or whatever. So it depends on the mode that you expressed yourself. What basically what your avocation was, and that's the way you expressed it. So it wouldn't get lost. So anyone would have access to this information if they had the eyes to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Would one of you put up Jim's comment, because I think this is the key point that we need to kind of maybe end with there at the bottom of the chat. The Muons might have pointed it out. I've been saying all along for the last couple of years, with my communications with different people associated with DIG, that they were going to be able to locate the chamber using the technology they have on the island. Okay,
wow.
You're going to be able to identify it, whether it's deep penetrating radar or the Muon technology. Muon technology easily will be able to identify the X's on the map there. What I seek to do is to point out who, what, where, when, why, and how. Okay, and I think that in my latest book, the Oak Island Treasure Maps, I think I've done that. I think, and again, it's not the only who, maybe, right? I mean, I named a cast of characters, and yes, they're all Renaissance characters. They're all Baconians. They're the Rosy Cross. But who's to say that there are not other older traditions and more recent deposits and players who have also used the same location and the same tradition?
Yep. You had mentioned at some point in your presentation there that he had built his tomb prior to ever needing it.
Correct.
So, what time frame would you put that at?
I think that from what I've seen, that much of this work was done late 1500s, early 1600s, because these are the time periods where all of a sudden we're seeing, the 1611 King James Bible. We're seeing the 1612 Champlain map suddenly pointing to these locations. That means that these places were there by the time these things were published.
Right.
Okay. So it's already there. William Russell, you got to have him on your show. I'm going to put you on the spot, William. You need to do this, because one of the things that you said was repeatability. William used a completely different methodology, and he placed the same X on the map as me.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, I'm not going to go into obviously his methodology, but I really
That's for him to do.
he wanted to just watch me do this tonight, but I would love to have him come on and show you what he's done and how he was able to find the same location, because it's so cool. His work is great. Another thing he's done is he's done a lot of great work in the genealogies at the beginning of the King James Bible and a lot of the almanacs. And one of the things that he discovered is that Bacon had signaled that he was going to die on Easter, the year that he died, which is his date of death. So again, he knew he was going to be faking his death, and it's encoded in the King James Bible. I mean, guys, that book is the gift that keeps on giving. There's so much still encrypted, and there's so much more to find. And anyone who wants to jump into the fray and help us all out and start learning how to do this stuff, you just get a hold of me, get a hold of John, get a hold of William, get a hold of Jason. Sorry, guys, I'm putting you on the spot, but I get a lot of messages now. But we need help, and there's just so much more. And John, you say it all the time. It takes a village, and
it takes a village,
and 100%. We're just a handful of people who are looking into this information.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Couple of comments, and then we're going to call it here, folks. We're going to wrap it up. Yep. Let's see. Can somebody put the Google coordinates in the chat? Somebody did. Oh, not in the Facebook chat. And I can't copy and paste. I tell you what I'll do. I will put them in the description of the show below, so you can copy and paste it. I'll try to get that in there because they are in the chat on the YouTube side, but not on the Facebook side. And I can't, unfortunately, copy and paste it properly over there. So we'll try to get it in the description of the show down below. One other thing that, and this is something that Henry brought up, was there they are there. If you want to jot down, if you can, yes, thank you. If you can copy and paste them from that, I'm not sure, but we'll try to get that over there for you. Yep. Henry DeWitt brought up, he said, yes, I think the muon technology found an X. And I believe you're right. I agree with you. I think it did. And I think that's exactly what they're acting on now.
As well they should. I mean, by far, my first presentation I did for the War Room, I was using Google Earth, and I said, well, I think this is about where it is. But, I'm putting an X on the map using technology that can be off by up to 5 meters. You only have to be off by a few inches to miss it. Yep. And so, using those kind of ham-fisted techniques to try to tell them where to look, I don't think that works. But I've said it a million times, using the tech that they have on the island, that's what's going to crack the case for sure.
Yep. This one was from Tom Burns. Were these coordinates intended for any particular group to follow? And if so, why? And then we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
If so, why?
Is that Tom?
Yeah, that was Tom Burns.
Oh, hey, Tom. How you doing, my friend? I think so. I think it was intended for the RC and their descendants. And that's one of the big things that I think all of us in the research community have been really finding from, Court with your work, Amy, John. One of the things that people are looking at are lineages of these names that keep cropping up. I think it's because they are descendants of the original RC members. And this is a legacy, a very real one. I think a lot of the information has been lost. And also, I firmly believe that Bacon left it for all of us as well. I mean, because the way he encrypted it, he used inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning works where it's like if you see an animal tail sticking out of a burrow, if you can identify what you think that animal, that tail belongs to, you can kind of predict what the rest of the animal looks like in the burrow. That's the way he encrypted this stuff. He left tails sticking out of burrows so that you could say, oh, I see that rabbit there, and I'm going to follow that hole to see where it leads. And then that's how he teaches you how to decrypt this stuff. And so, he left it here for us to figure out so that we would eventually know his truth. And listen, gang, I don't think Oak Island is the end of it.
I don't either. I
really don't. I said it again. We're going to be looking at multiple locations all over Nova Scotia and Newfoundland before we're done.
Wow.
I think.
Hey, Jake, if anyone wants to see any more of your work, where would they go?
Thanks, man.
Might as well ask.
You're awesome. You can find my books on Amazon. They're going to be on Barnes and Noble very soon. I have 2 books out: The Holy Trinity Decryption and The Hidden Autobiography of Sir Francis Bacon, as well as The Oak Island Treasure Maps. And that's the second book. You can go to theghostsofbacon.com, and you will be able to find all the past episodes of my podcast, and along with resources for decrypting ciphers. You're going to be able to find high resolution images of these maps that I talk about as research, just so that you can. It's all open source, gang. You can do what I do. I give you everything to look at. There are no secrets. I don't hold anything back unless it's like proprietary information or stuff I learned from other people that I haven't been given permission to share. So it's all out there. I'm trying to. Hey, Paula, you're awesome. Thank you. It's great to see your adventures here the last few days. And so, yeah, you can go there. I also have a group on Facebook, just like you guys. It's called Ghosts of Bacon. And I do a bi-weekly podcast. So thanks.
I have put those all 3. I have the ghostofbacon.com, the Ghost of Bacon YouTube link, and also the Ghost of Bacon Facebook link, all in the description below, folks, so you can go there and check them out.
Awesome, man.
What an honor, Jake. You mentioned this to me, and it caught me by surprise, really, literally, when we did the news update. And you told me those things there, and I was just flabbergasted. I'm like, okay, we got to do a show on this.
Absolutely.
And I really thank you, and I am honored, truly honored that you would bring this on my platform to put this out.
The honor's all mine that you would host me for this, because I'm a great admirer of you and your work and your show and everything you guys do. And so you have the biggest platform, and like I said, I wanted to be able to reach out to as many people as possible, and listen, the ad hominem attacks aside, and stuff like that. I'm used to that. That stuff doesn't bother me. But listen, gang, I really want you. I put this information out there. I'm taking a risk, saying, look, this is what I think is happening. I'm following the clues where they lead me, and if there's a flaw in any of this, you bring it to my attention, especially if it's something concrete. If you say, Jake, you screwed up, and here's why.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Okay, but I'm putting it out there. This is steel sharpens steel, right?
And
exactly.
So nice phrase.
Well, it does. And so I want to be as sharp as I can be, and if I'm messing up and you see it, please let me know. I'm not averse to that at all. There are people out there who don't want to believe, the facts, what the facts say, and that's fine. But if you're interested in the truth and real history, then by all means, take a close look at my stuff and let me know if I'm messing up.
Well, I appreciate that, because that means that, and it makes you, if somebody brings you up to a challenge like that, you have to go and take another look and make sure. So that sharpens, like you said, steel sharpens steel. So it sharpens your work that you've done and up to that point.
Wow.
Fascinating. We've got so many people are jumping on here right now saying, great show, fascinating. It truly was
awesome.
John,
Thanks,
man, what do you think? I mean, this is
it was amazing as usual.
It's
just amazing.
And on top of this, and like you said, when I mentioned this during my little news show, we're talking about them working basically in the right area. Now they're really concentrating on what's going on in that spot.
Yeah.
We're going to find out if you're right or wrong. And I think you're right. Look at that. We're going to find out.
It's amazing. It's just,
either way, it's like, if they are actually, using that actual information from the Muon technology, and it happens to be where I'm saying it is, I couldn't be happier. If it's close, I couldn't be happier. So yeah, the fact that they started to really look at the Women's Memorial area, I couldn't be happier about that, because it just kind of confirms what I just found. So
yep. Wow. I tell you what, man, I'm blown away. And John, I know you are, and so many of the fans, I think you guys are too. Don't forget, we're going to wrap it up here, but this is out there. It's going to be on YouTube, and if Jake is more than welcome to share this on his platform as well. Get the word out, folks. Let people know about this information and where to come and find it. And because I think that we're going to find out during season 10 how true this is, and it's going to be proven out, I think, this year with the Muon technology and everything else. Tell your friends, come check this out right here and watch it either here or on Jake's platform. You're going to have to see this, because it's truly
awesome.
I know I keep saying this, but you've dotted every I and crossed every T here. It just,
I try.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
unbelievable.
All right. Thanks so much, John, for being here with me tonight.
Thanks,
Jake,
John.
again,
Chef,
I'm
you
honored
guys
that you would bring this to J Free 906. I really am. And the
wouldn't
Curse
bring
of
it anywhere
Oakland.
else, my friend.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
All
bring it
right.
anywhere else.
Appreciate that. Folks, man, I tell you what, let's go with this. All right. You guys have a great rest of your week. And as John was putting up there, if you click on that subscribe button, it really helps us out. If you like the content of the show that we did here tonight, give us a thumbs up, click and subscribe, click that notification bell so that you know when we have new content coming out. It'll notify you right away and you can jump in and join us. We love the interactive chat. That is what
I
this
love
is
it. It's my
all
favorite
about.
part.
Yeah, awesome.
Yes, absolutely favorite part. Folks, have a great rest of your week and weekend coming up. We will see you next time right here on the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream. Good night.